What's up, guys? Welcome into it, man. Ready for another Monday, a whole nother week. Yeah, buddy. Moving right on through. What's happening? Hopefully everybody had a wonderful weekend. Hold on here. All right. Look at that. Live streams popping up here. We got a lot to talk about. I think they are, at least. Who is ready for a week of insanity?
2 minutes till broadcast.
It's never a dull moment. I mean, I guess we can say that we don't have to worry about a whole lot of show prep. What's going to happen this week? These are the questions. Welcome in. Coming up, bottom of the hour, we have Phil Kerpen, American Commitment. We get him on semi-frequently, so that'll be fun. We'll talk about the Biden budget proposal. Democrats supporting it. Republicans pushing back just a little bit. The House Freedom Caucus opposing it. The Conservative Coalition, the Conservative Action Project is what they're calling themselves, going after Biden's budget. So we'll get to that in a little bit. We have the latest on the bank bailouts. I know a lot of the financial economic stuff, kind of boring at times, but then we have some other goodies as well. Will Donald Trump be arrested this week? That's the big question, right? Also, highly recommend,
1 minute till broadcast.
if you are watching on some of the live video feeds, you'll enjoy. We've been working on some new video production for our different video commercial breaks. Hopefully you enjoy. Let me know your thoughts. And let's do this thing, man. What a day. Mondays are always kind of a blur, setting yourself up for the week, right? It's all right. Yeah, right? No doubt.
30 seconds till broadcast.
There we go. All right. If you guys are on, like it out, share it out. And ooh. All right. During the break, I'm going to have to see one of my favorite bands just posted their concert tours for the summer. They better be coming to the area, man. I'll be upset if they don't. They're still on my bucket list. All right. Hang tight. Here we go. Let's have some fun.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin transmission.
42 can't completely rule out a stray shower or thunderstorm. We'll keep us
KQA at 406. Currently.
Fighting for freedom every day.
Republicans right now, the conservatives, which unfortunately, this is what we have to do every time, even after a vote where people are sick and tired of the establishment, they're sick and tired of the squeezy, middle-of-the-road, squishy kind of Republican rhinos, and we vote conservatives in, then we have to fight tooth and nail in D.C. to actually be heard within the Republican Party.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, darn right it is. Welcome into it. What's up? It's a Monday, the greatest day of the entire week, baby. We are ready to rock and roll for another one. Well rested, well partied out after our St. Patrick's Day shenanigans, right? Hint, hint, wink, wink. I know that's what you've been doing. I know you so well. And we're ready to start a whole nother one here, trying to carpe diem all over this place, baby. That's what we do. Welcome into it. This is the Voice of Reason. I am Andy Hooser, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on our flagship radio station. We are all over the country, multiple radio stations, TV stations, live streaming, podcasting, however you watch or listen to the show. We love you to death. Your Millennial General reporting for duty like we do every single day. Big show today. I think it's going to be a big week. Let's just throw that out at the beginning. I think we're going to be in for a treat this week and see what happens. All by design, or is it going to be just spur of the moment? Are we as organized as the other side of the aisle? We'll get to all of it and more. Bottom of the hour, Phil Kerpen, American Commitment. He'll be joining. We'll talk about the Biden budget, more conversations regarding the Biden budget proposal. Now, usually, as I've said before, the president of the United States or the governor in each individual state will propose a budget, say this is what we'd like to see, and they sometimes use that as a framework, and then we say thanks, we toss it in the request bin in the corner of the office, and then we do our own thing. This one, for some reason, still gaining some traction on Democrat side, Republicans laughing at it, and we're debating now on what we do with the federal budget, moving forward into the 2024 budgetary year. So we have some audio. We'll play that here in just a little bit. We'll talk with Phil about that at the bottom of the hour as well. What could we see with inflation, with social programs? Obviously, now that social programs are coming to an end in the sense that you actually have to qualify for them again based on an application process, just like prior to COVID-19. I know. Very triggering for some on the other side of the aisle because they don't like that one as well. So we have that. We have the conservative response and how are they handling that issue. But get ready, strap in, get the popcorn out, and watch for a very chaotic week because obviously we're going to see some shenanigans be pulled with the claim that Donald Trump had made over the weekend at the end of last week, saying that he could potentially get arrested on Tuesday, tomorrow, coming up, based on his paying off with the Stormy Daniels adult star and being hush-hush during the presidential election. Now, will it happen? I'm curious. That would be interesting, man. The first president, former president, to be arrested on really stupid charges like that. I don't know if you're aware or not, but Congress actually has a slush fund in D.C. It's kind of quiet. It's not titled that, obviously, but there's a massive amount of money that's used every single year on politicians paying off people to stay silent during election season, most of them for affairs that they've had that they don't want people to know about. Remember Al Green, that crazy Democrat? Yeah, millions of dollars that he spent on keeping people quiet on the hush-hush money that he's had. So all of a sudden now it's an issue. They openly admit, yeah, we have this fund and we've paid off a lot of people to make sure to stay quiet during. I mean, it's not really illegal for them to come out and say that we didn't do anything necessarily illegal with these individuals. We just don't want it to look bad on us during election season. They openly admit it. They have these funds that they've paid millions of dollars on hush money, but all of a sudden Donald Trump's the big issue, and his former attorney is the one out there, the one saying this, and Donald Trump making the tweet over the weekend saying to go out and protest because he's going to get arrested potentially on Tuesday this week. When the media at first over the weekend, I was listening to the news reports, and the first thing they said, well, there's no actual basis for this because the investigation's not over. He could potentially get arrested at some point, or at least have some type of fine or court hearing or slap on the wrist or something. We're not sure. Not a big deal. But him calling to protest because he's going to get arrested and knowing the day that he's going to get arrested is a bit over the top. So, not to worry about it, but Donald Trump just being Donald Trump. Now, I'm hearing, well, he's inciting violence. And doesn't just play right into the left-wing progressive playbook. Now, I covered some of this on the Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. I was with the great Mark Walters. I just got off of his program as we talked about this issue. Let's go down the rabbit hole for just a moment. I don't like to a whole lot because it's kind of crazy, and it's if this is the world of politics that we're in today, then it's very stupid. But let's go down the road here for a second, shall we? Because the Democrats are really good at doing this. And do they have a more malicious intent for this? We have an economy that's crashing before us, not to be the doom and gloom guy, because you know me, I'm the eternal optimist. I'm the positive kind of guy, the sun rays and sunlight, going up, because we always think that there's an opportunity for everything. But for a second, let's go down the doom and gloom. We have an economy that's crashing. We have the financial markets and banks that are literally closing. We got two banks that just got bailed out over the weekend and got bought out by competitors. We have the other two that are going under but are being saved to a degree by the federal government based on allowing individuals to get their money out. And more banks that are struggling left and right as well. The bubble is beginning to burst and the recession is here upon us right now. Inflation's still dramatically high. We have the interest rates that are going continuously going up, trying to battle the inflation based on the Federal Reserve because they're too stupid to think about any other options out there outside of just let's raise interest rates. Then you have businesses that are taking advantage of the low interest rates for the last few years and expanding a little bit too far than what they should have been, which is why we're seeing now what we're seeing with banks failing when interest rates begin to climb. So we have that issue. Now we have the foreign issues. We have probably the biggest threat to the United States right now happening today with Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping in China working and meeting together, calling each other buddy, holding hands, singing Kumbaya. Literally the biggest threat we could potentially imagine in foreign policy to the United States. More so than Iran. More so than any other issue, and it's not the conflict between Russia and the Ukraine. This is now the partnership of the two big mega houses, powerhouses in the world outside of the United States, colluding together to figure out how they can create world dominance, so to speak. That could potentially lead to a very, very bad situation. Hopefully, God forbid, nothing violent on a World War III scale. But we have Russia that's been able to show themselves as not the powerhouse we thought they were, but still has a lot of manpower as they continue their excursion into Ukraine. Then we have China, where we have Chinese balloons flying over the United States, the Chinese giving military and money and supplies to Russia, wanting to take over Taiwan, wanting to take over the United States, buying up agricultural land left and right. On top of that, we have the collusion with the Biden family getting kickbacks from Chinese countries because that's just the way the Biden family is. Then we have social media where we can't even communicate with each other with social media apps because Facebook and the Tweety and the YouTube and the Google all collude to try and censor the content that we are allowed and not allowed to see. And the sites that don't censor us because they're not owned by the federal government here, like TikTok, are the ones who are trying to ban so that way they can control the dialogue. We have high gas prices. We have an increase in egg prices. We have Mexico not wanting to actually take our corn now, which is going to be devastating for a lot of the agriculture community as they don't want to buy anything genetically modified, which is like everything out there ever nowadays. Everything around the world seems to be crumbling before our eyes. We have train derailments left and right. We have chemicals being spilled in the air and in our drinking water. We have distribution plants of food being blown up by airplanes left and right. And they're saying it's all normal. And what are they focusing on? They're focusing on a former president who's running for president and his potential scandal with an adult film star. That's the story of the day when we're here to say,
oh my God, who the hell cares?
But the media is all about it because they want the attention on Donald Trump. And it goes into a grander scheme. Let's put the tinfoil hat on for just a second, shall we? Let's go down the road of why they're focusing so much on this. And let's just say and go down the road that Donald Trump will be arrested tomorrow. What would that do to the nation? We have MAGA Republicans that would lose their minds, lose their, if you know what I mean, because a former president who's not doing anything wrong, where we found out he wasn't colluding with Russia, we found out that he wasn't lying and cheating and scandaling, we found out that he wasn't doing anything illegal in any way, shape, or form, that he wasn't a crazy radical racist, that he wasn't a crazy Nazi fascist, whatever else they want to call him, when they found out that they've investigated him for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years straight with nothing to show for it except for 2 House representative impeachments that mean absolutely nothing on his record, they have to eliminate him. And he is that golden child. He is the icon. He is the scarecrow, the symbolism of what 52% of the nation represents, which is center-right republicanism, limited government, exposing the radical agenda from the socialists, exposing the radical agenda from the elites in Washington, D.C., and they are tired of it. They want to get back to business as normal. They want to get back to doing things the way they were, the smoke-filled rooms behind closed doors, to make the deals with Republicans and Democrats to find ways to centralize power at the federal level. Donald Trump was the threat to that. Look at where we're at today. Even after Donald Trump has left office and he has no influence except for influence within the party, but no actual official influence in any way, shape, or form, they're trying to go back to business as normal, and they can't because now we're aware of what the hell they're doing. Think what you want about the QAnon, the whole conspiracy theorist mindset, which I do not fall into the conspiracy theories of QAnon, although they had a purpose. And the purpose was that there's something weird going on within the federal government, and we need to watch what they're doing. Now, the whole pedophilia thing, I don't know. With everything else they tried to claim, I think they lost a lot of supporters once they made their 15th or 17th or 20th claim about Donald Trump waltzing back into the White House and arresting Joe Biden. I think that's where a lot of the credibility started going downhill. But what it did do on a grander scale was make people say, wait a second. What's going on in Washington, D.C.? Let's pay a little bit more attention. And now we're starting to get the patterns. I'm all about patterns. I'm a mathematical kind of guy. I like seeing patterns. That's why I'm good at problem solving and puzzles, because I like to see patterns. In math, you can always see a repeating pattern in numerical values, for the most part. We can see a pattern now. We see what they do. And COVID was a prime example. You create an issue. You create the solution to push onto the people. And that solution always gains you more power to do the same thing. Rinse, repeat, and cycle. It's what they're all about. Donald Trump was the wrench in that cog in that system. And they don't like that. So if they eliminate him, what do they benefit from doing that? They get him out. They arrest him, let's say theoretically. And then the MAGA people that are angry that protest, that gives them all the fuel and energy to continue on and reiterate and double down on the entire mindset that guess what? MAGA individuals, Republican individuals are domestic terrorists. They're the ones with the guns and the Bibles that cling onto their guns and Bibles. They're the actual deplorables. They are a threat to national security. Coincidentally, that whole threat to national security is going on at the same time we have a conversation about China's TikTok about being a threat to national security because of, quote, misinformation that's not being controlled or regulated or screened or shadow banned by our own federal government and the controls that we have here in the nation. Now the MAGA individuals will be the threat to national security on a domestic level because they'll be the angry ones. They'll prove that January 6th was that insurrection, even though we've just proven that otherwise, and we don't want you to know about that. So to continue on with that mindset, let's arrest their leading icon, the golden child of that movement, watch them get mad, and then show the violence that happens thereafter, whether it was actually created by us or not. So that way we can say, hey, look at what Republicans and Trump supporters are doing. They're a threat. They're the election deniers. They don't live in reality. It's time to lock them down, take away the firearms, get rid of their social media, isolate them, and make sure they don't have any influence moving forward. That's the conspiracy theorist in me. Is it accurate? I guess time will tell by tomorrow when we actually see him get arrested.
With Andy Hooser.
Andy Hooser here, reminding you not only can you listen to the Voice of Reason on your favorite radio station, but also check out the video of the program on TV and online. We're excited to be working with our partners over at OpsLens to bring the Voice of Reason live every day on their website at opslens.com, on the OpsLens app that you can download on any of your smartphones, or on any of the OpsLens social media. It's a great network that broadcasts multiple shows promoting truth, reason, and common sense, reaching thousands of viewers every day, all day long. Plus, while you're there, you can always watch some of the best highlights of the show during the weekends or read our latest opinion columns on topical issues of the day. Also, if you want to interact with me during the program, just leave a comment on their social media or the OpsLens app stream. You can always join the live chat rooms, or if it's easier, just email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Again, that's HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. This is your show, and we want to hear from you. Why? Because it's time for you to be your own voice of reason in your own community. Looking for more reason? Well, now you can get even more content from the Voice of Reason through our Patreon site. It's your exclusive membership for being the ultimate Hoosier-holic. On our Patreon, you'll get additional interviews and content that we don't get to air on the radio, behind-the-scenes action from the Hooser Media Network, plus one-on-one video streams where you can catch up with me, guests of the show, and other great Voice of Reason supporters. Plus, you can also support the show by checking out our gear and swag. Find the link on our website at HooserReason.com. Again, that's HooserReason.com. Become the ultimate Hoosier-holic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HooserReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HooserReason.com. Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on the Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hoosier-holic by going to HooserReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hooser Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HooserReason.com. For a schedule of upcoming guests on the program, daily show topics, or to reach out to the Hooser Media Network, visit us on the website at HooserReason.com. Or for general inquiries, to be a guest on the program, or to have Andy a guest on your program, email us at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Keep fighting for freedom with us every day right here on the Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network. Now, back to the show. the future of media. The Hooser Media Network continues to grow every single day with new shows, new content, and new information as we continue to fight the narrative against the mainstream and give you the alternative view of the world. The Hooser Media Network is home to great TV, radio, and podcasting programs on any topic of any interest. From politics and current events to religion and spirituality, holistic and alternative health, entertainment, motivational speakers, and so much more. And with the Hooser Media Network, you can enjoy more content from the Voice of Reason like this. With the vaccinations, with the quote-unquote health pandemic, now that the emergency response is going to be lifted by the end of this month, with the continued forcefulness of vaccines that they've done, are we at the stage in society that you thought that we would be in at this time?
That's a good question. I haven't had that one. I thought we were going to be further along with disclosure of the data and acknowledgement by the government of what's happened here. Instead, what we've seen is the ongoing suppression of information, including public health information that doctors could use to help start protecting their patients from the long-range consequences of these if they only had the data. So what has happened is some really interesting information has popped in the UK that demonstrated that their lead public health officer has really weaponized fear and manipulated the people. That's creating a lot of blowback over there. And we still have just a ton of denialism, cover-ups and everything else going on. They just don't seem to want to come clean.
That is very true. Now, here's the big question. Is it starting to get leaked out? Obviously, we heard the last couple days the other side losing their minds over, for example, the January 6th videos coming out. There's now an ethics complaint being filed against House Speaker Kevin McCarthy because the video was released to the public for our personal knowledge and understanding and information. Is the truth beginning to come out on this issue as well? Not only with, obviously, we see the origins of COVID coming out, which they're trying to push back from, realizing that it wasn't Ozzy Osbourne biting the head off a bat over in China to spread this virus, but it was actually the Wuhan lab that was spreading this. So that's starting to happen. Will the truth come out on this vaccine stuff too?
Yeah, the backstory on that was that this appears to have been a retaliation because the Chinese government was aligning itself with Russia, and so we decided that this was the right time to really emphasize the role of the CCP and the Wuhan Institute of Virology, while obscuring the fact that the tech was transferred to them by EcoHealth Alliance, and the money to do the job was provided by the U.S. government. So that's an interesting twist. Is the information coming out about the jabs? Somewhat. There's still just a ton of denialism, pushback. The whole propaganda apparatus is still absolutely in gear. The fifth-gen warfare, PSYOPs, is still in progress. And we did have a fascinating article the other day that issued in Newsweek. This is from my friend Scott Atlas. America's COVID response was based on lies. Published on the 6th in Newsweek. This is one of the most frank acknowledgments of what's happened that I've seen. But it focuses mostly on the lockdowns, and I think there's growing universal agreement that the lockdowns were a huge government overstep. Whatever you think about the jabs, whether they're safe or effective or not, pretty much there's universal acknowledgement that the lockdowns caused enormous damage economically, excess loss of life, destroying businesses, destroying people's income and ability to make a living, and for absolutely no purpose at all.
Listen to all these programs and so much more as we try to bring back knowledge, wisdom, and truth back into the world. And we do that right here with the Hooser Media Network, the future of media.
when reason meets radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Done right, it is. Welcome back into the program. So I realized that entire last segment, we forgot to hit the unmute button on our live video stream. So we're back at it on the video. You'll wonder, hey, where's the audio there? We got you covered, baby. It's a Monday. What the hell do you expect from me, man? Welcome back into the show. Radio, TV, live streaming, and podcasting. Trying to cram that 10 pounds of reason into that 5-pound bag. Trying to rebrand the Millennial Generation 1 radio listener at a time on multiple radio stations all over the place. Are you sick and tired of hearing about the whole, is Donald Trump going to be arrested or not? Here's what I have to say about it.
We don't care anymore.
Good golly. I tell you, if all the money that we knew about that got it spent on trying to keep people quiet during election times with scandals, you should just kind of chuckle when they're like, oh, they paid off. Whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. It's really stupid. Let's shift gears a little bit and get into the latest and what's trending.
What's trending today?
There's a lot to cover, especially on the more important issues of the day. That is, of course, the Biden budget. There was a conversation on Newsmax earlier today with a contributor to Market Watch, Ellis Hennigan, made this comment in defense of the Biden budget proposal.
No, it's actually a terrific budget. You should go look at it, Paul. Let me tell you some of the things it does. First of all, I know you guys are concerned about deficit, so this one cuts $3 trillion out of the national debt. It also defends middle-class people. It raises taxes on some of those billionaires who've been not paying their fair share. It protects the things that Americans care most about: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, defense spending, 100% protecting of defense spending. And the Republicans, as you were just hearing, won't come up with anything because their caucus is so fractured. They can't agree on anything. Some want to cut defense spending 25%. Some want to devastate Medicare and Social Security. So give Biden credit. He came up with a good, strong, middle-class budget, and the Republicans are blubbering. They can't come up with anything.
A good, strong, middle-class budget proposal. Is that really true? Talk about some of that and a lot more. He's the president of American Commitment. We love having him on the program to talk about these issues and so much more. Mr. Phil Kerpen back on the line with us here. Phil, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, Andy. How are you?
Hey, living the dream. What do you think of that? A good, solid, middle-class budget, raising taxes on the richy riches that don't pay their fair share, cutting taxes for other individuals, cutting $3 trillion out of the federal budget. It's a win-win. Like, why wouldn't we just get on board with this budget proposal?
Well, the interesting thing to me is that, we had the second highest revenue as a percent of the economy in history last year. And we also had a massive deficit, which tells you that the problem's entirely on the spending side. It also tells you, interestingly enough, that, when we do these big tax hikes, they don't change revenue that much as a percent of the economy. When we do big tax cuts, they don't change revenue much as a percent of the economy. It's always sort of in that kind of 17 to 20% range, and we actually do a little bit better on federal revenues when we have lower taxes than when we have higher taxes. Why? Because the economy is growing more. People are not investing as much of their time and effort and money into avoiding paying taxes. They're too busy making money and doing economic activity. And so this idea that you can put capital gains tax hikes to a record level, which, post-inflation is going to be well in excess of 100%. The idea you can put a tax on unrealized gains or a wealth tax, that you could do corporate tax hikes, all of the other stuff in this budget and get more money rather than harm the economy and get less money, I think is insane. So I think that the revenue increases are totally fake. The opposite would happen if, in fact, we jacked up every tax in sight the way the president's proposing. But also, there are no real spending cuts in this budget. It's just gimmicks and the same ridiculous thing. Basically price controls and budget gimmicks. And, of course, when you have price controls, you get shortages and other resource problems. And so I think it's an extraordinarily unserious budget. And it's being greeted that way on Capitol Hill. I don't think it will see the light of day. It will, however, I think, provide kind of a useful foil for Republicans to contrast their own budget with. And, of course, the biggest contrast is that the president's budget balances never, and we'll have to see what the Republicans propose, but supposedly it's going to balance. That's what Speaker McCarthy promised the conservatives when they were holding out to vote for him. So we await what they've actually come up with.
It's going to be interesting. This reminds me of during COVID or post-COVID, I guess shortly after COVID, Joe Biden came out and said that he's created now 12 million jobs, more than any other president on the face of the earth in the history of the United States because of all these jobs. At the same time, he's cut $2 trillion out of the budget, which wasn't really a cut. We increased it by $2 trillion during the COVID-19 relief funding. That's not included in the budget. That was on top of what was already allotted for the budget. He cut that out, and all of a sudden that's a reduction. We bring people back to work after the COVID pandemic after telling them to stay home, and all of a sudden that's job creation. It seems like that's kind of the manipulation of the numbers that we're seeing at with this budget proposal as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you compare the president likes to say, look at how much I cut the deficit compared to what it was before I came into office. But the year before he came into office was the most obscene and massive spending spree in the history of the entire federal government, because that's when they shoveled all of those trillions of dollars of so-called COVID relief out the door. And, much of it actually had nothing to do with COVID, and, a lot of the money was stolen. And, I think we've talked about that before. But in any event, the only honest way you can compare what Biden's done on spending to the track we were on with Trump before he came in is not to look at the 1 year of 2020 versus, where we are now. It's to look at what the next 10 years of projected spending were by the Congressional Budget Office before he came in, and what they are now after his policy changes and the inferior economic performance and so forth. And the 10-year difference in deficits for the next 10 years from now, from what they were originally projected to be when he came into office versus what they're projected to be now, is $6 trillion of increased deficits over 10 years. So this idea that he somehow has reduced deficits is completely insane if you look at it in the only apples-to-apples way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Moving forward here, as you mentioned, we're waiting on what conservatives may do with this budget. The conservative groups like the Conservative Action Project, along with other organizations, I know you've been working on this as well. But the elected officials especially are trying to work on a plan that would potentially cut, not just in the future and $1 trillion over the next 10 years. That means absolutely nothing to them. But actually this year, along with in the future, is that a possibility? We still have to deal with the Democrat hurdle in the Senate right now. So from your opinion, from what you're seeing in D.C. and the conversations you're hearing about, could we actually find common ground? Or at the end of the day, are we going to pass something like this or similar to it, raise the debt ceiling without any type of limitation for the end of the year, and not have to worry about any types of substantial cuts and getting us back on track?
Well, here's the situation. We've got a Republican House that's pretty committed, I think, to real spending reductions, and they are going to use that debt ceiling as leverage for that. And they've basically said, look, the whole reason the debt ceiling exists is to force Congress to do something to alter the fiscal trajectory that we're on when it's an unsustainable path. And, we've got $31 trillion in debt. 10 years from now, it's supposed to be $50 trillion if we don't change anything. We've got to take it seriously. And as I said, the problem's entirely on the spending side. So I think that the House Republicans are going to push pretty hard for some pretty substantial reductions. And they've named some things that are sort of low-hanging fruit. I'd like to see them name more things, put more things on the table. But they are dealing with a Democratic Senate and a Democratic president. Interestingly, I like what Mitch McConnell's been saying on the Senate side, which is basically the Speaker needs to negotiate with the president. If they can agree on something, the Senate will probably go along with it. I think that's right. So the question is whether the current Speaker, McCarthy, can accomplish something similar to what Boehner did when he negotiated with Obama. And, of course, we had pretty significant spending reductions from that Budget Control Act, which put caps on spending that lasted for a few years until they waived them all. Of course, the reason it became hard to live under was that half of the cuts had to come out of defense, and it was a time where we had increased defense commitments around the world, and that eventually made the whole thing collapse. So it can be done. It has been done before. You would hope that they would avoid the mistake of agreeing to put half the cuts on defense this time. But that's the model, and the question is whether McCarthy can win those negotiations with the president. And that, of course, I think, more than anything, in politics, it depends on public opinion. And so, the question is, can Republicans led by Speaker McCarthy make the case to the American people that if you're going to ask for an increase in the national debt, you better have a plan to increase spending, not just a plan to keep continuing business as usual on an unsustainable path. And I think that's a winning argument if they make it to the American people.
Yeah, that is true. Isn't that such a messed up system? We have like the duties of what government's supposed to be doing, which is national security is like one of its top priorities, not social programs. But in our divisiveness and how we split the federal budget up, we had the discretionary and the mandatory spending. And military is not included in that mandatory spending where they must just, keep spending at a certain percentage or growing at a certain percentage. It's in the discretionary that continues to get cut left and right when all the social programs that are bankrupting the nation are actually in the mandatory. And if you even talk about slowing their growth from a 6% growth a year to a 2% growth, then you're cutting it by 4% and wanting people to die in the streets. That's kind of a messed up system, isn't it?
It's like the worst possible system, honestly. And, they're not going to touch the entitlement program, Social Security and Medicare, because neither party has the political will to do it. They know that if they touch the third rail, they'll get, electrocuted politically, and they're not serious enough to do a bipartisan negotiation and come up with solutions, and so that can just gets kicked down the road indefinitely. And by the way, those programs have an unfunded obligation between them that's twice the size of the official national debt and not included in the national debt. So that's another massive problem. But I'd be happy if they could even get the official national debt a little bit under control. But at some point, we are going to have to deal with those entitlement obligations.
Yeah, what a mess it is. We've got to take a break here. It's Phil Kerpen, American Commitment. You can find him online as well with American Commitment. When we come back, I want to shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about these bank bailouts now that we're seeing the economy potentially work its way downward, the recession of 2023 looming on us, and how we move forward with that issue. And as we were talking about a little bit as well with ESG and the first, the Biden signing his first veto on the ESG and some of the investments that Republicans are trying to work on as well. We'll do that when we come back here for a Monday on The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Andy Hooser here, reminding you not only can you listen to The Voice of Reason on your favorite radio station, but also check out the video of the program on TV and online. We're excited to be working with our partners over at OpsLens to bring The Voice of Reason live every day on their website at opslens.com, on the OpsLens app that you can download on any of your smartphones, or on any of the OpsLens social media. It's a great network that broadcasts multiple shows promoting truth, reason, and common sense, reaching thousands of viewers every day, all day long. Plus, while you're there, you can always watch some of the best highlights of the show during the weekends or read our latest opinion columns on topical issues of the day. Also, if you want to interact with me during the program, just leave a comment on their social media or the OpsLens app stream. You can always join the live chat rooms, or if it's easier, just email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Again, that's HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. This is your show, and we want to hear from you. Why? Because it's time for you to be your own voice of reason in your own community. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. You want some more reason throughout the day? Well, now it's easier than ever to find. Here's what you do. Check out the website at HooserReason.com. There you can find past shows, links to all of our social media, special features, our monthly blogs, and a heck of a lot more. Plus, make sure to check in frequently, as we're constantly working to add more goodies that you'll really enjoy. Also, you can always subscribe and follow our social media sites for bonus content, articles that we use on the show, or maybe some additional rants. Yeah, it's all that and so much more. Check it all out at HooserReason.com. Looking for more reason? Well, now you can get even more content from The Voice of Reason through our Patreon site. It's your exclusive membership for being the ultimate Hoosier-holic. On our Patreon, you'll get additional interviews and content that we don't get to air on the radio, behind-the-scenes action from the Hoosier Media Network, plus one-on-one video streams where you can catch up with me, guests of the show, and other great Voice of Reason supporters. Plus, you can also support the show by checking out our gear and swag. Find the link on our website at HooserReason.com. Again, that's HooserReason.com. Become the ultimate Hoosier-holic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. As we continue to grow as a radio and TV program, we're continuously working behind the scenes to try and bring more common sense and reason to more patriotic Americans all over the country. That's why we're super excited to be working with the OpsLens team to bring you the voice of reason every single day. OpsLens is a national online network bringing you incredible content all day from hosts all over the country. And each host brings their own unique experience and expertise to the current events, reaching hundreds of thousands of patriotic Americans daily. Make sure to check out their website at opslens.com. Make sure to download the OpsLens website and follow them on all of these social media sites that you like so you can watch all their live streaming content, including ours right here with The Voice of Reason. Plus, if you want more of The Voice of Reason, check out our website online at HooserReason.com. There you can listen to the live audio feed of the show every single day. You can read our monthly blog. You can check out our satire infomercials. You can see pictures of what we're doing, upcoming schedule of events, and a heck of a lot more. On the website, you can find our list of radio and TV affiliates in your area. Find our social media links, and while you're there, sign up for our free newsletter. Over the last 2 years, your Voice of Reason newsletter has grown exponentially. It's completely free, and in it we give you your monthly motivation, upcoming civic holidays for the month, a recap from the show from last month, upcoming guests on the program, along with the latest news from our Hooser Media Network. It's pretty simple. All you got to do is go to the website at HooserReason.com and become the next Hoosier-holic. Finally, follow us on all of our social media sites. With the iron grip control on content from the radical left, unless you follow us, you're not going to be able to see us. It's been an ongoing battle with shadow banning on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where even our own fans are having a hard time finding our content. But the battle isn't over. We'll continue to bring you the best content we can on as many platforms as possible. You can follow us with the handle at Hoosier Reason. No matter what social media site you like to use, you can find us there. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch.tv, Instagram, TikTok, OurFreedomBook.com, Parler, and of course our website at HooserReason.com. Don't miss it while we give you a heads up on some of the events that I may be attending or speaking at, updates of behind-the-scene projects, or just something sarcastic to try and rile up the left. The battle for freedom is real, and we want to be part of that battle, as we want you to be your own voice of reason in your own community. Conservative principles happen at the grassroots level, and that's what we're here to help with. And together, you and I can fight back against this virus that's spreading across the nation that is socialist policy, trying to destroy this country. We can bring us back to some constitutional values, some individual sovereignty, and the right for you to be able to make your own choices when you deem necessary for you, your family, and your community. In a world of fake news and information overload, it's time to bring back some reason, common sense, guidance, and a little bit of wisdom. And that's what we're here to do. This is The Voice of Reason.
Fighting for freedom every day. The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Welcome back into the program. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Last few minutes of the program here on a Monday. Boy, we have a lot to talk about throughout this week. What's going to happen? Get out the popcorn. Watch the craziness unfold before our eyes. Oh, man. We're not going to have a shortage of things to talk about, I guess that's for sure. Right now, we're hanging out with Phil Kerpen, American Commitment. As we talk about the Biden budget proposal, we talk about the way the economy is going right now, which, Phil, I have to say, I love how the Federal Reserve comes out and they say, well, the only way that we need to get rid of inflation is to raise interest rates. We're on like interest rate hike, potentially number 7 or 8 or wherever we're at right now. Has nothing to do with spending, cutting spending, stop printing money without any backing. Nothing to do with that. All we got to do is just raise interest rates, and then all of a sudden things will go back to normal. And now because we're raising interest rates, things are getting so bad that every economist is predicting a recession sometime by the middle to the end of the year. Banks are already starting to fail. We have 2 shutting down, 2 more that just got bought out, more banks globally that were tied to us that were having issues that are getting bought out as well. But yet, don't look at the burning house around us. Pay attention to us because everything's all hunky-dory because the economy is going to get back on track, right?
Well, I think we've got a pretty dangerous situation, as so often happens when the masters of the universe at the Federal Reserve try to manipulate the economy and the banking system. And right now they're trying to manipulate them in opposite directions, right? Because they're still trying to cool off the economy because they have this, they have this idea that the best way to stop inflation is to jack interest rates up and induce recession, essentially, reduce economic activity to reduce demand, rather than doing what they should do, which is stabilize the money supply and let the market determine what interest rates are. And so they've been obsessed with these rate hikes, which I think they've really gone overboard with, to be honest. And one of the consequences of that is, as you pointed out, all of the banks that bought up tons of government bonds as a place to park all of the money that the Fed had been creating the last few years. Now they're looking at huge paper losses because interest rates have gone up, which means the value of the bonds has gone down, and that's causing insolvency potentially and if people withdraw too much from the banks, as we saw with a couple of banks that have failed now. So now the Fed is saying, we'll take all your bonds at par, at face value, even if they're worth much less than that, and they are expanding the balance sheet again of the Federal Reserve. And when they take assets onto the Fed balance sheet, they trade cash for them. They trade money, so it's money creation. And so now you've got the Fed back in the business of quantitative easing. They've reversed almost all the quantitative tightening of the last year through this balance sheet expansion of taking these treasuries from these troubled banks, and they're continuing to try to raise interest rates. So now we've got a contractionary increase in the cost of money at the same time that we've got more money being created. And so what you put two and two together, we're going to have continued high inflation, but we're also going to have high interest rates. They're the worst of all worlds. So it's a pretty bad recipe right now, which is why a lot of people are predicting a recession. Of course, the one thing about economic forecasting is, Andy, is half the time everybody's wrong. So I'm hoping somehow it doesn't happen, which is always possible, but it's a pretty problematic environment right now.
It's a very weird environment for sure. And they say that we're not in a recession now, even though by definition we hit it last year when quarters 2 and 3 were below and actually a loss of growth.
But did you notice they never officially declared one?
Exactly.
The White House sort of browbeat the official dating committee into never declaring that one.
Yeah, it's very strange.
It didn't happen, I guess.
It didn't happen because the economy's still hot. People are spending way too much money, which in about a minute or so as we wrap up here, Phil, why do you think we're still spending so much money even with the high inflation and the price of goods, but yet we're still spending massive amounts of money for them, enough for them to say we're not in a recession because spending on the consumer side is still so high?
Well, we pushed $6 trillion of money into the economy, over the 3 or 4 COVID spending bills, and almost all of that was, printed money. 90% of it was essentially printed money, which is why we've had, so much inflation over the last couple of years. But a lot of people got a lot of extra money, government benefits, stimulus checks, $1,000 a week unemployment, all that kind of thing. And so we had a historic decrease in credit card debt and a historic increase in spending over that period because so much people were getting so much money that they were using it to improve their household finances pretty substantially. And so we've seen a big reversal of that over the last year or two, but people are still not as bad as they were before. So their credit card balances are coming back up, but they're still not quite as bad as they were before, and I think that's why spending has continued, but that can't go on forever.
No, they can't go on forever, and when we start seeing some of the social programs end at the end of this month until you actually get qualified for them like we used to prior to COVID, we could see a pretty dramatic change in the economy and spending habits as well. Phil Kerpen, American Commitment, AmericanCommitment.org is the website. Phil, always good to talk to you, my friend. Let's do it again soon.
All right, have a good one.
Always a pleasure, my friend. There it is. A lot of content. We'll break it all down again for you tomorrow. Until then, podcast up in just a little bit. So much more we didn't get to, but we'll see what the world looks like in another day right here on The Voice of Reason. Until then, be your own voice of reason. I'm Andy Hooser. We'll see you on the radio. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. When I get off the air every day, the battle for me against limited government, censorship, and even unfactual content is far from over. That's why now I'm so happy to say that the Hooser Media Network is giving you more opportunity to catch the voice of reason along with other great shows and podcasts. It's been a long time in the works, and now you can finally enjoy more great content, services, and topical shows. We're the safe space for alternative talk, information, and ideas that the mainstream media absolutely hates. From holistic and alternative medicine, discussions on religion and spirituality, pure entertainment shows, and of course yours truly with the voice of reason. Plus, we offer numerous media services, including helping you set up your own podcast. Become your own voice of reason and bring your expertise to any fun issue or topic. For information on all of our shows, links to podcasts, each show website or social media link, or to find out about everything we do to challenge